Hello, how are you today?
I'm doing good, and yourself?
I'm good. Sorry, I had my earbuds in. I forgot they were there. Um, yeah, I'm good. My kids are a little buck wild right now, so if anybody hears them in the background, I'm sorry. Trying to keep them.
Yeah, I know. It happens. That's what summer break is all about, trying to keep them entertained and then on to the next thing they want to do.
I know, I just realized that we recorded our last video like 3 weeks ago.
Oh my goodness.
Did you know that? I was like, wow.
Yeah, time flies.
I mean, nobody else would know that. And hello and thank you to our subscribers and people that are watching because our view counts are going up, baby. Thank you.
You, everybody.
Well,
Awesome.
Andrea, once more, you've brought another horrible ass story. And from my home state of Ohio, so I was zero shocked. As I should be. You should be more shocked and appalled by these things, but we're going to be talking about the Ohio House of Horrors. And it just gets more and more horrible as it goes on. Like, literally, I just looked up a few more things this morning and I was trying to get caught up because we've been traveling and I was a little bit behind, but I knew what we were working on. And I was like, damn, dude, this is horrific. These poor children. Go ahead if you want to begin, ma'am.
Yeah, let me get my emotional water bottle
Well,
for a
then you have I have my emotional energy drink.
Yes, yes, yes. Quench the palate there for a second. Yes, so it just feels like this case has gone on for so long already with it's like a daily thing, it's like breaking news of so many things that are happening with this case. But it came out in June, and then it was the 30th of this year. And it was in the most rural county out there in Ohio, Vinton County. And it happened in Hamden, in the little town Hamden, at 182 Omar Road.
So if I have to give you a little bit, I mean, you've
Yes.
lived in some rural areas of California. I
Mhm.
would liken it to um like just before you start going up into Three Rivers, like the little area right down there where it's just where you drive past that one gas station and then it's just like going through Orange, is that Orange Grove or Lemon Cove?
Lemon Cove. Yeah,
Lemon
there's
Cove.
orange, lemon. Yeah, all the coves with all the citrus names. Yes.
Yeah, it is that's like the vibe. Like,
Yeah. Okay, so if our viewers don't really know about, you kind of got to use, descriptive words for them to kind of paint a picture, a verbal picture, right? So what would what would the average like homes look like, things like of that nature?
dilapidated is not a word that I kindly use, but
Right.
a lot of homes in this area are at least century homes. So if you're not keeping up with them, you have to, have a memory in mind that Ohio, although it was not one of the original 13 colonies, it was settled pretty early. Um, and so Ohio, has a lot of old historical homes, and it also has a lot of homes that were built for people who worked in like a coal mining situation or an industrial situation and very akin to how Grove workers here, how they have like the housing and it's
Oh, houses, kind of. Is that what?
yes,
Okay.
yes. So there's a lot of houses that were built in a way that were just I don't want to offend anybody because I know people are probably like, bitch, you're from Ohio. Why are you always talking shit? Because me and Ohio have beef. Okay. Like that state hates me and I hate that state. And it's okay, but I don't hate the people in it. That's just a
Yes,
personal
we
gen
always want
problem. So I'm not trying to talk shit about Ohio. Um, but yeah, to set the tone, yes, it's Appalachia adjacent. And there's a lot of people who live in this area, and the very first parts that I heard were people trying to be like, well, they're just coming after these people because they're poverty stricken. That's not the problem. There's many poverty, unfortunate situations in this world, but they don't lead to neglect. They don't
right.
lead to the shit show going on here. So we're talking about, I mean, every state has their community of what we'll refer to as like down home people. And this is more like the southern charm of Ohio. This is bordering West Virginia and also Kentucky. And there's a great deal of heritage in that area and probably a lot of good biscuit and gravy places along the way.
Oh yeah. There's so much it's kind of like a well, I don't know how micro or small, it is, but it's definitely we have regions, here in America that is definitely like a cultural way of life, right? But like you're saying, so when we get into the facts here, uh, this is not something that is acceptable, right? Just because you live, below the poverty line or well below, it doesn't
It's offensive to
justify.
people who live below the poverty level and they're saying, I take care of my children. My house is not trashed. I'm not whipping my penis out at somebody. I mean, and that's part of the case. Sorry to say.
So that's so thank you for painting that picture.
Yeah, sorry about the whipping it out part.
No, and I will say, like, from here in California, people can kind of relate to that here if they're from areas where there's a lot of agriculture and whatnot, because those row houses were, and kind of with the Dust Bowl and things, people moving to the Central Valley to do work. From even the migrant farmer workers or from out of Oklahoma, Arkansas, whatnot. So I know that's how some of my family came over here too. But always. So I had like, great aunts and uncles or, my grandparents, good friends that I called like aunts and uncles, where they would tell us that they lived in these row houses and literally with dirt floors, but
Yes.
that those dirt floors were swept
Yes.
and they like literally minimum once a week they're taking out all the rugs or whatever that they have to keep the dirt down. They're taking everything out of their
And you also like press those down.
right.
Yeah, you clean them, but you also, I don't know why I'm going down this road of like, yes,
Right.
and the care to that is also smacking it down.
So, yes, so we're saying that it doesn't matter, what amount of money you have in the bank. There are ways to be cleanly. And so bottom line, we're trying not to make excuses for this case. Okay, so we're gonna jump into it. So this involves the rest of four adults, and it kind of started with a fellow named Gary Siders Jr. And supposedly, the police were like on to him because he had some decent exposure charges. So that's kind of what you were saying, Jen, with who knows what the name
Allegedly.
allegedly, supposedly for entertainment purposes only, right? Because nobody has been like prosecuted, there was nothing, no conclusions of the case yet. The four adults that were living in that home are in jail currently right now, awaiting trial. So, but that's kind of, how it started. And then, so the police came to the house on June 30th of 2026, and they realized that this house was what we're saying, the name of it, the House of Horrors, right? I guess it's like the smell
Mm.
just hit these officers, and they've been, upon further investigation, that smell was like human waste, urine, just nasty, disgusting living, like they said, like literally it's like barn animals, supposedly, allegedly, right? They're they live better than the conditions of who was living in this house. And the people that were living in this house were 16 children, ages 1 through 18 years. And so the adult occupants were Elizabeth Siders, age 33, uh, Gary Jr.'s parents, uh, Gary Siders Sr., he is age 73, and Christina Siders, 67. So once the police got in there and they're looking around, I mean, and that's what I'm going to bring up right now. And there's so much speculation with this case, and people are, trying to get clout online. And there's all these like conspiracy theories and whatnot. Because this case, I guess, is so interesting and so many things are unraveling and unfolding. But uh, yeah, so we're going to try to just stick to the facts more than um, what is kind of being speculated.
Absolutely. First of all, everybody has a right to a trial. They're innocent until proven guilty. I do believe in that. I do. But the just basic, condition of the children, the household, everything would allude to there's a severe issue. Um, I had heard that the youngest three children were all sets of twins.
Yes.
So the youngest six are twins. And then I have no idea why this was so involved in the telling of things that I've tried to keep up with about the set of conjoined twins that were born and passed away the same day. And I was just thinking to myself, like, gosh, how horrible. Like, it's already a bad enough case. Like, do we really need to be talking about it? I mean, if you were pregnant with a set of conjoined twins, like what would really be your option or outcome, or, depending on your walk of life, depending on your personal belief set. If she elected to continue with that pregnancy and that is the choice that she made as a mother, like I have no judgment for her on that. And I just think it's a little bit shitty. Uh, And I also see her as a lot of women are, especially in this time, she's being villainized more than some of the other people in this story. And I just feel like the villainization should be equal. Um,
Yes, definitely. It
it's
seems
like
to
they
always
all four of them were the adults in the households. And
right.
for just Elizabeth to be the forefront of that when Gary Siders Jr. was the catalyst is fascinating to me, that how women are cannibalized in the media.
Right. And I think this is why this story hit home for so many is with, okay, so um, when Elizabeth got married to Gary Siders Jr., she was only 15 years old and he was already of age 18. And there's speculation that they went to like another county or cross state lines or whatnot, just not where they were currently located to marry. And then it kind of just goes down, like the kind of like the chain of a command in a family or, the patriarchy or, what goes on in these rural counties that needs to have a light, shined upon it. And we really need to talk about that. And not to say that that is just like an Ohio problem, because it's definitely in the past has been something to be concerned with here in the Central Valley. Teen pregnancy, like in the whole entire nation, we were like number one.
Really?
Yes.
I
So
did
that's
not know
not the
that.
case. Yeah.
We're
And
number one,
let's,
baby.
yeah, that's what we kind of horribly joke about. People around here would say, it's like we're number one in something, but it's nothing to be proud about. So flash forward all these, decades later, and they're saying that, teen pregnancy is at an all-time low, and then women in their 40s, that's like the biggest boom now. It's like high five to all those, mamas that had lived their best life and
Side note, oh, I have a pillow behind me. It keeps popping up in the video. Excuse me. I had a horrific dream this morning, and I even told my husband, I was like, I had a dream. I was like 9 months pregnant. And I was like, and it was horrible. And even in my dream, I was like, man, I'm too old for this.
so
Like,
bless
I'm
all
at the
those
age where I dream I'm pregnant and it's a nightmare. I'm like, no.
right. We know we would like love and,
And that's what I
put
said. I
in
was
the
like, look, I would
but for
adopt, I
us,
would foster anything, but like, I'm no more giving birth to anybody.
no. So kind of going back to this, so we both of us have two kiddos, right? And you had two C-sections. Am I correct on that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then I had both of mine naturally. But yeah, just that's just mind-boggling to me to be a 33-year-old woman. I mean, that is like a decade younger, than us, or a little
Well, my grandmother, my mom's mother had 5 children, but my dad's mother had 9 children. And she was probably about 35, maybe when the youngest was born, maybe a little bit older. I'm not sure, but both of my mothers, both of my grandmothers had a child, I believe, at least at 35. So, and that was kind of unheard of, at that time. Um, Especially in the case of my mother being born in 63, I'm sure my grandmother was like, man. Um, but it's not, it's more common now maybe, but it's not, it was, I don't know. I don't know kind of where I was going with that, but I've heard of it, you know.
right, right. Just kind of how through, the decades and generations, family dynamics just look different. So that's what the officers in this case were just quite confused. It's like how, and I guess it was like 5 bedrooms total of this house. And I guess, allegedly, supposedly,
No,
the,
like 5 rooms. It was not
yes.
bedrooms, ma'am.
Oh, sorry.
No,
Yes.
no, no. I mean,
Thank you for correcting me.
no, you're fine on that. I was just like, gosh, if they had 5 bedrooms, they may have been doing pretty great. That might have been an adequate amount of space for some of them.
Right. See, they're like I'm saying things. I thank you for speaking my language. The ADHD, I'm already thinking like three things ahead of me. It's like, yeah, you would need about, probably minimum 5 bedrooms to comfortably house and, have a pleasant experience and upbringing to give to your children. But no, that was not the case. This was an itty bitty little house. And so supposedly the kiddos were kind of confined. We don't know until, trial and what the police
I,
found at the moment of them like coming through the doors and whatnot, if they were locked. And so I think
I
they're
have a suspicion this is never going to trial. They are all, I believe wholeheartedly, they are all going to plead. I, there's no way. I don't think we're ever going to get the real, like, court TV breakdown of, there's no way.
yeah. And I think because of how widespread and known that the case is, that's what they're kind of like saying now, that they're not going to have a fair trial and they're, you know, trying to make it so anybody in this case with the lawyers are not supposed to divulge any more information and talk to the media and things like that. So it's kind of we're going off what the press conferences with that the initial information coming out, and of course they are supposedly allegedly going to be a little more dramatic, right? We don't know how horrible the House of Horrors, it's a nice title, but we don't know the full spectrum of everything. So I'm just thinking for, my own thoughts on this. So when these children were kind of like confronted by the officers, and I'm sure they barged in, like whatnot. And
I'm perplexed on the situation of what brought them. I mean, I know what brought them there initially was a complaint from somebody else that Gary Cyrus Jr. had been exposing himself to someone else outside of the household. But how did they take a case like that complaint and then show up like gangbusters? That
right.
that to me feels like they knew a little more going in than they're letting on.
So, right. And I could, that's definitely information I can fill you
Gangbusters. I
in.
used to work for an old police chief who would say that all the time, and I was just like, man, nobody knows what gangbusters means anymore, Jen.
That's, yeah, I have, older relatives on like police force, and they would say that. I was like, so if, yeah, hopefully the younger generations kind of know what we're like, I don't know if they
Gen
had
X
guns
Unite. I
on,
know you're here.
right. So what the speculation supposedly allegedly is that the Siders, so Junior and Elizabeth, they had been kind of hopping around, moving around. Uh, and I think what would happen was once the authorities with the school, because the kiddos were enrolled in school but then neither wouldn't show up, or um, they it's hard to find information to see like if they had social workers, but supposedly they did in some of the counties that they were in, but they kind of fell through the cracks because they would move so quickly, but then they were kind of onto them. So that's, I think they were just using kind of what Junior was, how had kind of had the police record. They were kind of using that to kind of investigate and have an excuse to go to the house and see what's going on behind those closed doors.
Yeah, I agree with you there. It feels like they had a little more information than they're alluding to at this time, but it's
Right.
curious, like if if somebody who made this initial complaint was i- in some kind of area, I mean, how does this neglect go so unnoticed for so long? And and if some of the older children did have um, internet accounts, and some of them had, I'd listened to something that was talking about one of the children had a TikTok or a Instagram, and they were like, "Well, Dad used to love me, but he doesn't love me anymore," which was super creepy, by the way. It just gave me the immediate ick knowing the whole situation, but like, ugh. And then some of the like inference that some of the children biologically might be somebody else's child, and it's like, oh, please stop. Like, I hope that's not the case.
Yeah, so there's so many speculations of what's going on
Yeah.
because they were saying that's like, okay, being Elizabeth being 33 and having so many kiddos, it's like, oh, was this a, supposedly incest situation because there's multiple men living um, at this property. But
That's like the
seeing
beginning of Idiocracy, by the way. Do you know that?
oh,
Did you ever watch that movie?
I
Well,
maybe,
I
but
know
I
it's
can't
very
remember.
popular right now because of other stuff, but the beginning of Idiocracy shows like a married couple, and they're like, well, we're waiting, we're doing this, we're doing that. And they're, in the meanwhile, juxtaposed on the side of the screen is another person who's just popping out kids left and right, and he's just impregnating everybody. And then he's just like one of the dumbest people ever, like in the movie. And he's just propagating himself. He's just,
Hey.
and
Oh
then
yeah,
on
I
the
have
other
seen
the
it.
other
Yes.
flip of the screen is like the husband ends up dying, the wife never has the child, like, and it's like the intelligent people are dying off, and then the dumb people are just like kicking out, you know.
Right. And
No
allegedly,
offense to them. I don't know what's going on with them, but I'm just saying idiocracy.
yes. So that is something. So we kind of already touched on that, like what's going, everybody kind of talking online about this. And that was something that Elizabeth's brother, supposedly, I know he's done some interviews and whatnot. And he's posted on socials saying that it's definitely an intellectual thing that's going on. So that's according to him, that it's like they keep having these children because of, well, it's
What
out
a
of,
dirtbag, though. Like, you were not in contact with your sister for a long time, and you knew she was a teen bride. And I kind of take what he says with a grain of salt as well, because clearly he's just like, I'm having my moment of attention, my 15 minutes, and get the fuck out of here. Like, if you care a little bit about even just your sister, not you, let alone the children, like, shut up. Shut up. Like, why are you out there talking about your sister like that?
yeah.
That, in
So
my opinion.
we kind of like rewind with Elizabeth's life, and it's like, how did she get into this situation with Gary Jr.? We gotta kind of put the spotlight now back over this direction and see, it's like, what was that family dynamic? It's like, so what would prompt a girl at 13 when she supposedly met Gary, like, I think they supposedly were, I think, in like a trailer park area, where in like a community where they met. uh so what makes a 13-year-old take up with someone, and then at the time of
Young
marriage,
love hormones. I mean,
right? Or is she, they said also, I think it was the brother, uh, correct me if I'm wrong, but uh, that was saying that there's, in, I think Elizabeth even herself was saying that there was issues of like abuse and a neglect. And it was actually the Siders family that kind of saved her from that.
A tale as old as time.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of finger pointing, and it's like, okay, well, it was, oh, we were trying to save her from this situation. But then the parents, I feel like a lot of the family members are speaking out so that things don't come back on them. They're trying to like hurry up and get their story out so they're not charged with anything and brought in, for questioning. It's like, oh, we didn't know. But here's like, a whole synopsis of the family history and, blame game, like we're saying, pointing the fingers. So yeah, it's like how many generations is this going back? There's so many articles, it's hard to keep track of everything, but I guess there was a lot of on both sides, supposedly, of the families on the whole that were teen brides.
Honey, it's very common in this area. It really is. And this situation, and I know people talk a lot of shit about West Virginia, Kentucky, Ohio, Indiana. It's Tennessee. This is common. This is very, very common for young women to, hey, either you need to get married to this guy and have this family and this kid, you need to take care of him, blah, 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 blah. Or, you know, she needed a way out of a different abusive situation. And because she was young, got herself into a different abusive situation. And it's, I don't know. I mean, we talk about these things frequently, and this story, because these children are listed as special needs, because, I mean, I got about 20 minutes left on my timer, and I don't know if you want a part to it or if you need me to just shut up.
No, 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 no. We can see how it unfolds, but we may have to do a part two. Uh, but yeah, so I just wanted to talk about that too. So when these girls and women are not given the proper education and the full scope of what the potential you can be as a woman, you're just kind of put in this box. It kind of just goes back to, so then whose fault is really all of this, when I know we keep saying that everybody's like villainizing Elizabeth,
And
but
I'm not trying to defend her.
no, 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 no.
But I'm just trying to not be one that's just saying it's literally her when it's like there are three other adults there as
Right.
well that are is equally as culpable.
For sure. And well, senior, it just seemed like since like even 3 or 4 years ago on socials, he just looked more spry and he seemed to, kind of just be more there. And poor man, it just seemed at the time of the arrest, he was kind of looking to his son to answer the questions, and he just didn't seem like he knew what was going on. So it's like how many levels of neglect are, you know,
He's the only one that's not currently in jail. They released him because the state or the county did not want to pay for his medical care. So they said, "All right, we're going to put you on probation or whatever. I don't know, but I think they gave him
bail or something.
like an anklet and said go to the hospital. And I think he's in some long-term care facility, probably being, a social security situation. Um, and I don't blame that especially that small of an area where they're like, this is literally not in our budget. This is not a Columbus, a Cincinnati, a Cleveland, a Toledo. They don't have the money for that. They just don't. That would literally be like rolling up on Lemon Cove and saying, hey, pay, $2 million of da 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 for this. And they'd be like, I don't have it. I don't have it.
Right. And so it's not just seniors care, it's, I mean, we can, there's so just like a web, this case. And then so those kiddos, those 16 kids, it's a part like the county has had to like foot the bill to try to put these kiddos in foster care, and it's not just regular foster care. Then they're going to need like psychological help, and then it's their medical bills, and it just is this poor smallest county in Ohio is just being bombarded with this bill from this. It just
So they did do like a tri-county thing, or they are part of a tri-county setup where they kind of, go back and forth with some assistance from two of the local counties. One of them, I I could think it was Franklin County. I'm not sure. Has a little more population and a little bit more capability. So I did hear about this therapeutic foster care situation and that the children were sent out to, some of these neighboring counties to just accommodate the
right.
number and not only these, 16 children and potentially a 17th that she may be pregnant with. I've heard tale, back and forth. I've heard a couple of updates that she's possibly pregnant right now. Um,
Mm.
among all of the other children that are in foster care or any kind of, situation in those areas, it's like a system that's already so badly strained. And highlighting this for these children, great, but what of the other children that are also in that situation and they're shit out of luck.
Right. And so that kind of begs the question too, because this county cannot, support just, 17, 18 people that kind of need that medical and, all these interventions. Uh, I wonder if they'd kind of be reluctant in the future or whatnot to kind of pursue. Will they just let things kind of slip through the cracks? Because,
I think they already were. I
mhm,
really do. And
yeah,
I just,
just so many questions.
Ohio, I knew you were going to be at the center of another controversy. I knew it.
Good